Doncs ara passem a escoltar el doctor Yannis Fallas, de la Universitat de Western Macedonia, del clúster d'investigació i bioenergia.
Buenos días, and that's more or less what I know about Spanish. So I'm Yannis Fallas. I come from Greece, and in our region we've been working with this cluster building for some time now. I'm personally very much involved in this cluster process, as I call it, and I would like to share with you some slides that maybe can give you some more light about it. But before I start my slides, I would like to say that from what I saw from Perez's presentation, you have done an excellent job, an excellent analysis of the situation. I think you have more than enough. From what I've seen in other countries, in other good, let's say, examples of clusters, you have what it takes in place. So now what you need is just to put them together and make them spin. And that will create the synergies that I will talk about later on. But so I will start by the definition, because I was asked to provide a few slides of what is a cluster. So Michael Porter, the American economist, back in the 90s, described for the first time, used the word cluster for the first time to describe a phenomenon that existed decades before. So it's all about having at the same place, so geographically located, a group of companies that are interlinked to each other and also to other institutions, mainly research institutions, and also directly associated to government or local authorities or regional authorities, and also to trade associations, etc., etc. So the practice, the theory and the practice says that if you have all these together and you put them to interact and work together, the result is really the added value that we are all involved in regional development we are looking for. And so why we're talking about clusters. In this slide of innovation index, you will see in very brief the reason. Because clusters are directly related to innovation, and GDP is for many studies proven that it is related to innovation. So you can understand the relation. On the other hand, you can see that countries with no national cluster policies, like, fortunately, our countries, Greece and Spain. Greece is somewhere here, Spain is somewhere there. So they are much lower in innovation index than are countries which follow and adopt strong national cluster policies. Of course, Scandinavia is always there. You're bored to hear about Scandinavia, but that's the fact. They follow this path, and I think they are very right to do it. Germany is also there, but also there you will find Italy and etc., etc. So this is something to indicate something. It's an indication. It's not a proof, but in fact, you will see that it is working like that. So why, on the other hand, why enterprises, why research institutions would like to have clusters, would like to be in clusters? It's simple as that. When you're co-located, it's much easier for you to find specialized services, specialized personnel right next to you. If you're an isolated company, you will not find, if you're an isolated specialized company, you will not find your personnel there. You will find it, I don't know, around the globe. But if you're co-located, then it's much easier for you to find the staff or the scientists or the research that you're looking for, and vice versa. The personnel that is looking for a job is much easier to find new job. Also, another very interesting point is the spillover. Spillover is information and knowledge spillover is something like To give you an example, when you have a bottle with milk in cold temperature, then it stays like that. But if you boil it, then milk will go out. It's exactly what it is, the spillover. When a company or an R&D institution develops new products, new knowledge, then after a while it doesn't stay within the institution, but it goes out. Now, this might sound negative for a company, but in the end, as a whole, it's very, very positive. That's what works as linkages and flows of communication and information. And all this is also related to flexibility, because when you're easier to adapt to changes, then you're more flexible. And of course, innovation, because it happens to your neighbor, let's say, that's the paradigm that I mentioned there, is easier for you to adapt. And so companies or R&D institutions, let's say, copy faster the neighbor, then the neighbor has to develop new knowledge to be in front of the neighbor, and then it goes on like this. So it makes the whole cluster accelerate, and that's the real added value of this scene. So my work has been focusing on biomass, good biomass bioenergy clusters. And I've been traveling a lot, as my colleagues know more or less, around Europe for the last 5-6 years, to visit clusters of this topic. I visited 16 by that time, and we used a number of indicators to identify and see why some clusters are more innovative than others. And what is actually or which are the factors that allow the transformation of traditional clusters to knowledge and innovation clusters. This is more or less the map of the clusters that I've visited around. Well, in the next edition, I would like to add Catalonia too. It follows more or less the raw material, of course, the forest, let's say, abundance, and it covers from north to south, from east to west. So it was quite a representative work about wood and bioenergy clusters, and the activities covered were practically the whole spectrum. Heat and mainly district heating, power production, or these two together in CHP units, biomass supply chain, biogas production, R&D technologies, even fertilizers, biofuels, etc., etc. Among the main findings, I first reaffirmed that the most innovative clusters are positively related to innovation index and to patents, of course. But they're also very strongly related to a regional support of entrepreneurship, entrepreneurial spirit, and a special focus on research. Of course, this is not nuclear physics. It's very easy to understand, but it's even stronger when you realize and you reaffirm it through your on the ground, on the spot evidence. And what is even more important for the regional planners, I think, is that innovative clusters are even stronger related to an increased GDP, gross domestic product, so more money for the region, and lower unemployment, because more jobs for the region. And that is, I think, the key focus. So some practical examples to give you some food for thought, let's say, for your own cluster. I've collected some of the clusters that I wanted to point out. Their main let's say features are that they all exploit local resources. So if you have forests, you work more with forests. If you have like agricultural residues or whatever, you work more with them. You exploit whatever is local because it's normal, it's cost related, and it's efficiency related. Most of them work, as I mentioned, with heat or electricity or both. You can see examples from very large to very small scale units, and quite often the issue of symbiosis, which is very important when you have locally some units and then you have a new unit connecting to them. I will explain later a few comments. Very important is the financial and political support that you will see in most of the cases, which I presume that you also have here in your case. Your presence here depicts that you have some support for the cluster, I guess. And it's also very important to use this top-down, bottom-up dual approach. What I mean is that you work with, you throw, let's say, an idea from the top, like cluster building. Then it works like seeding, local level. Then you get some reaction, and then you drive back from the bottom towards the collecting point. And then with new comments you go down, and then up and down. That keeps you updated all the time. Otherwise, you have to be flexible every way. So you have to acknowledge that people are changing, institutions are changing, so you have to work with that all the time. So let's pass to some interesting examples. Central Finland, they have a formally established cluster with manager and structure and everything. They are, as I mentioned, a result of a central government policy, but on the other hand, they have a very strong regional support and a political endorsement of the regional council. I was there to see with my own eyes that the political persons were always supporting. And allow me a small comment. Yesterday I was here in the first part of the session, and I saw something that I always see in Greece too, and sometimes in Italy. After the politicians or the famous persons gave their speech, they left, and with them, half of the audience also left. That's really very strong in the south. I'm not saying it doesn't happen in northern countries too, but I am always very surprised that in conferences or in presentations like that, let's say the president of the regional council or really high political persons will always be there, will always understand what you're talking about, and will always ask you critical things. In our cases, it never happens. You always have to go to their office and work with them, blah, 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 etc. But you have to work with what you have, so that's always the case. You will see the number of this cluster. It's not so big. I mean, it's 50 plus members, which involves also the R&D institutions and the political institutions. So in total, I mean, you don't have to think really always too big. In my opinion, you have to focus to a good core of companies and institutions, the triple helix representations, and start with them. Because, in my opinion, there is always a critical point in time. You can plan forever and never do it. You can always wait for the optimum and never do it. Or you can say that, okay, I have done my analysis, I have already a good core, I have good trust and good cooperation with X companies, like 20 companies and 5 institutions and 2 departments of, I don't know, forest or whatever. And then with them, I do the first step. And if it is successful, believe me, the others will follow. They will want to be members of this successful cluster. And as you see, they're everything more or less represented there. I don't know, a huge company of 600 megawatts producing from biomass and peat that they import from all around. They provide all the heat for Jyväskylä, a city of 30,000 inhabitants, but also a good quantity of electricity for the national grid. Or you can see a small unit of 1 megawatt for a small town in the suburbs. They have their own machinery companies, and this is really highly sophisticated. Of course, it works in flat terrain that Finland is flat, and it couldn't work for slopes or everything. But the thing is that they develop their own machinery. This is always a lesson for us. But I'm convinced that you have your own machinery building here companies, no? If I remember well, yeah. So this is already, that's why I say that you're already on the path. So all you need now is small steps forward. I'll say more. This is a good example of symbiosis. On the right and left side, there were companies of pulp and paper industry, and on the far end there was a, the far end there was a village of like 500 inhabitants. So very easy, very logical. I mean, that's common sense. They built a new where the chimney is. They built a new heat and electricity production company with all the remainings of the pulp industry, and the heat is absorbed by the village and by the companies. So it's a good example of symbiosis. Sweden, more or less the same. The area is mostly famous for two things. One is IKEA, that everybody knows. We have in our houses their furniture. The other is Vecchio, which is the first, let's say, green city that was announced by, I don't know, a green cities council or something. Which means that this city is trying to be really green and autonomous in energy and heat demand. Of course, they involve everybody. Again, not a very big number of members. So you can see that good and very effective clusters, not really talking about, you know, about 1 million members or something. Those are mega clusters in the United States, but I think for our European standards, this is more evident. Again, as I mentioned, IKEA, they have built a very interesting wood center for the education of students, but also for the education of entrepreneurs. And at that, I consider fantastic as a concept, because entrepreneurs need to learn things, and they go there and they are educated. What else? Okay, I mentioned here the World Bioenergy Fair, not to compete with this very nice organization, but this is really a huge event at a global scale, to be honest. Navarra, Spain, not far from here. So you are more acquainted to that, maybe. Ignacio knows a few things. So it was formally established through a European project. It is with less members. The thing I want to mention there now is that it started as a very strong R&D oriented cluster. And the fact is that when the R&D priorities changed slightly, the cluster diminished its activity. So it's not really following up very strongly. So the lesson here is that we always maintain the focus on enterprises, because this is the real economy, this is what takes it to the future. So I think it's very interesting to learn from good, but also from, let's say, negative results. Still, some very interesting points in Navarra, like, I don't know, you probably know the Acciona 25 megawatt from straw, or some very local industry producing biogas from animal waste, manure. So it's very practical, or even a very small heat-only district heating system for like a village of 200 inhabitants. Very, very small. So you can see that you can have very good cases in whatever you want to develop. Poland, Wielkopolska, is another example of rather small cluster, but quite dynamic. Of course, one would argue that actually they are in the German influence, and that's why it's working, potentially. We can talk about it. Another interesting example of symbiosis. So as you know, people there drink a lot of vodka. So this is a vodka distillery. and they were in huge need of heat. So what happened is that, on the other hand, in the area around, it's agricultural area, so they have a lot of carrot residues. So what they did was they built a new unit there, taking all the residues, producing biogas, and without burning, they produce the heat that the vodka plant needs. So it's a wonderful example of symbiosis. And of course, they get some bottles of vodka for their own. It's very normal. Zvolen, Slovakia. That's another very interesting example of top-down, but only top decision. I was honored to be present in the time when the regional council of Zvolen, of Banska Bystrica actually, officially accepted the development of a new cluster, the good cluster. But it was so strongly related to the regional government that what happened is that few months ago the regional government changed, and now the new government doesn't have a priority this good cluster. So it literally almost collapsed. So again, because the focus was somewhere else and not on the companies themselves. So I pay attention to that. I think it's a very good lesson for everybody. Still, they have some, some district heating, but not working so much. Styria in Austria, Holz cluster, 5 hours? No, 5 minutes. Okay. Okay, I'll have to go faster. Okay, Styria involves many more members, and they are more related to maybe to the concept that I've seen here, the forest association. So all the exploitment and all the management of forest, etc., in very good ways, chainsaw, blah, blah, etc., with very high slopes, so you know more than me, that it's very difficult. However, Biomass Trade Center, one of the very good examples of how you collect biomass, so you buy biomass for all the suppliers, and you sell it to the end users, like energy plants, etc. And I want to mention also the Gussing model, which is a town that in the beginning of 90s, the municipal council said at that time that we want to be autonomous in terms of energy. So we want to use our own resources. And they were spending like $6 million at that time. And they said, we want to be in 15 years 100% autonomous. They have not reached it yet. It's like they've been going up to 85%, I think. But still, it's a huge amount that they circulate in the regional economy. So if you think of that in your own case, I think it's a lot of money that you implied already that can be recirculated in the regional economy. Trento, Italy, very interesting, but with waste, so I won't bother you so much because I don't have so much time as I've been told. So in our case, what we did is that we collected all these experiences and cases from other successful examples. We tried anyway to learn from the good and bad things. And we started with a rather small cluster of 22 members, as I mentioned, trying to include those ones that want to be included, for sure, and those ones that have the capacity to be involved. So working with them is hard. It takes a lot of time. I would say that I'm an engineer, but in my daily work with organizing the cluster, I need 10% engineering and 90% psychology and diplomacy and policy and whatever. Because you have to relate to people and you have to help them relate to each other. That's the real essence of the cluster. So we've done some experiments, and no more time. Again, I told you about this. I stay again to the word trust. This is something that you build over time. It's you have to use the relations that you have already, and you have to build upon them and provide good and efficient work so that they stay with you. So involve as many partners as possible, but don't exaggerate. Promote cooperation and competition, and promote learning through learning. And to quote a famous band that I love, Pink Floyd, together we stand, divided we fall. Thank you very much. I'll be here for questions, I think, yes? Okay, thank you.
Many thanks, Dr. Yannis. Catalonia is a big network of little and medium-sized companies, and we need to learn more and more after you're talking about clusters.